Let me welcome you to the 60th lecture of NPTEL online certification course Drilling and Blasting Technology. This lecture is also on standard operating procedure for blasting operations. This is the second lecture on this course. This lecture is also contributed by Dr. Satyabrata Behera, who is also sitting with me here. So, as we do in every lecture, let us retrospect what are the previous lectures we have covered. Previously, we have covered the basics of drilling and blasting technology. We understand what is explosive, how the explosive rock interaction occurs and that lead to the rock fragmentation, how to design the surface bench blasting, how to design the underground face blasting, those are discussed. We have also understand what are the results of the blast, that is the fragmentation, ground vibration, noise, fly rock, fumes, etc. And we also carried out some numerical problems where we found the performance of the drilling machines, performance of a blast, then how the cost can be calculated for the drilling operations, for the blasting process, those are also covered. There are few lectures in which we have discussed how the rock and rock mass properties are affecting blasting performance and drilling performance also. We have discussed some special blast techniques also, and we have discussed the numerical analysis of the blasting also we have discussed. So, the objective of these lectures are same as the last lecture we have discussed, because it is the continuation of the last lecture. In this lecture, in these two lectures, basically we are discussing about the standard operating procedures, how to do that one, with particular reference to the blasting operation, how the safety can be assured with the standard operating procedure and implementing that by the workers of the mines. So, we have discussed in the first lecture of this SOP for blasting operations, we have discussed the basic principles of the standard operating procedures for a blasting conditions. So, we are continuing with that. We have seen how the blaster will inspect the holes to understand how the holes are there, and based on that how the explosive has to be loaded on those particular holes, that calculation has to be made by the blaster. So, that inspections we have seen through a video. Now, the next process will be discussed here.
Now, in the SOP for blasting procedure, the next operation is preparation at blasting site. So, what we will do, we will do some barricade so that the unauthorized persons who are not associated with the blasting operations, they will not cross that limit zone. So, what we will do, we will cordon off the blasting site and put tag for unauthorized access not allowed. Put the required explosive material against each hole. After the calculation we have done, suppose we are blasting 40 number of holes and we have done the calculation, the amount of explosive which will be required and the amount of connecting wires what will be required for the blasting. So, we will put that particular amount of that material near to that hole. Like we have done some barricading so that unauthorized people they will not cross that zone. Like you can see here, only the authorized persons are allowed beyond that area. The second one, we will bring that particular amount of explosive which will be required for the blasting operation, and we will place that particular amount of explosive and the associated materials, associated connecting things like the connecting wires, nonel and that booster, but against each hole, so that there will be no mismatch in the quantity. This is the second procedure in the SOP of the blasting operation, charging of the holes. The next one is charging of the hole. So, now we will what we will do, we will connect the explosive with the connecting wires. Like if you are using the cartridge explosive, then we have to connect that cartridge explosive with the connecting wire nonel. Suppose we are using the booster, then we will connect the booster with the nonel wire, the down the hole delay, and we'll combine each and every step properly. That I will show you in the video. After connecting the high explosives and the connecting wire, we will put the bulk explosive like the site mixed slurry or the site mixed emulsion in the appropriate quantity in that hole. Then we will leave that hole for few minutes for proper densification of that explosive. Then we will properly stemming the hole, otherwise blown out of hole will happen, and the same process we will repeat for all the holes. Then after charging and stemming all the holes, we will connect each and every hole with one trunk line delay TDL uh, TLD in required sequence. Suppose we are having 14 number of holes and in 4 rows. So in the first row there are 10 holes, in the second row there are 10 holes, likewise there are 4 rows and in each row there are 10 holes. Then we'll sequence the holes properly so that there will be no
actually that TLD will be connected in a sequence, so that the hole will be blasted in such a manner. Before the blasting of the hole, the previous hole of that particular hole must be blasted ahead of this one, so that the hole should get a proper preface prior to its blast. But there is one important aspect I would like to draw your attention for, that is that this surface connections has to be carried out only and only when the down the hole connections and the explosive placing stemming is covered. This is essentially required because suppose some immature blast occurred to one detonator, down the hole detonator of one hole, then it will not lead the blasting of the other holes. If it is connected with the TLD, that is the trunk line delay, then the initiations will be shifted from one hole to another hole. So, that is why it is never allowed that the holes will be connected in a surface before the blasting or the charging is being processed, not at that time this is allowed. Once the charging of the holes will be completed, the stemming is over, then only the surface connections will be made. It is not that in one side of the bench surface connection is being going on and another side the explosive charging is going on. It is not allowed, because it may lead to explosion of the more explosives. So, this is very, very important, one must understand this, the importance of that one. After this TLD connections, that finally when the initiation has to be given, that initiation has to be given by the one electrical detonator, or it may be a ordinary detonator and safety fuse combinations may be used, okay, and that is given to one TLD or any one surface connection. This process of connections and charging which is given here may vary. One may use electronic detonator. In that case, the electronic detonator is directly placed in the down the hole. In surface there is no detonator, only the electrical connections are there. Where the connecting wires are there, electrical detonators will be hooked with that connecting wires. So, there also the hooking of the electronic detonator down the hole which is placed, that will be carried out to the connecting wire only after the charging will be completed in all the holes. Similarly, if the detonating fuse is used, then only the detonating fuse or the down the hole nonel will be connected to the surface detonating fuse or surface nonel at the end. So, these connection procedures are different as you are differing from the charging that connecting system initiation systems. So, that has to be considered. So, in this here we will see one video. In this particular video, basically this process is described.
Now you can see in this video the uh, how the blaster is connecting the booster with the delay, non-L delay. After connecting, he is lowering that booster to the bottom of the hole properly. And he will carry out this thing to each and every hole. After placing the booster as well as the charging connections properly, then the bulk explosive truck will come, and that bulk explosive will be charged to the holes one by one. And after charging all the holes will be leave for few times for proper gassing of the explosive.
Actually, this is the wrong process. This pipe has to be inside the hole, and it is not that you can drop explosive from the top of the holes to the bottom. That is not allowed, but maybe probably taking this video it is kept like that, so that one can understand, but it is the wrong process. Pipe must be there inside the hole. It is not dropping of explosive is not allowed. Even the cartridge explosive is there, then also cartridge explosive should not be dropped from the mouth. There is a system where the cartridge explosive must be lowered from the surface. It is not dropped, okay, because you understand the explosives are exploded because of the shock. So, that is why it should not be thrown like that way. Okay.
Now, the person is doing the stemming operation after the gassing of the explosives.
Nowadays, instead of stemming plugs are also can be used, where the proper stemming force is given by a mechanical system.
Now, the next procedure is preparation for firing. So, before firing, what we have to do, remove every unauthorized persons from the danger zone of 500 meter. Suppose we are doing our blasting in an open cast mines. So, during the charging, our danger zone is limited to that blasting area, but other operations are going on like the dumper and shovel movements. But during the firing, we have to clear our total mine within the radius of 500 meters. Suppose all the shovels, all the dozers, all the dumpers, or any type of electrical items which can be in the danger zone of that blasting area, we have to remove everything from that radius. Then we have to put some guard at every entry points, like the people who are the laymen who are crossing nearby, they will not know that blasting is going on. So we have to put at every entry points, we have to put some guards, and we have to keep some warning signal like 3 big sirens that blasting is going to happen. Once assured that every person has been removed from that danger zone and guards are there at every risky points, then the blaster shall move ahead for the firing. We can see that thing. Now all the connections has been done, and we have cleared all the unauthorized person, all the machineries which are not required for that area. We have cleared that area for the blasting. You can see all the holes have been charged and they are connected. So now we are moving for firing. We are putting guard at every vulnerable points, and now we will give one siren, that warning siren, that blasting is going to be happen. After that, the blaster will move forward for firing the explosive. Now, firing the blast. Before firing the blast, the only person who is allowed within that area is the blaster and the helper. They will take one proper shelter before firing. Shelter is something, one iron cage type of things. Inside that iron cage, the helper as well as the blaster will be there. They will fire so that any fly rock or any type of risky things which were flown out, they will not hit that person. Once again, after the blasting, we have to warn the people, and then we have to fire the blast and wait for 5 minutes. Before the blast, we have to warn the people by putting the siren. Then we have to fire the blast. Then we will wait for 5 minutes. then we'll check for the blast if there is any uh, misfire has happened or not. After checking the fire, then we have to give one clearing signal. So after firing the blast, then the blaster and the helper will wait for 5 minutes inside that shelter. After 5 minutes, they will go for checking the blast. Then the next procedure is checking of the blast. Now, once assured for the blast is over and the blast smoke removed from the blast site, the blaster shall go to the blast site for checking. After immediately finish the blasting, if someone will go to that area, it is very risky. Maybe some hole there will be misfire, and again due to some improper charge they will again blast. So we have to wait for 5 minutes. Then we will after clearing the smoke. Sometimes some poisonous smoke also produced due to blasting. So after clearing of the blast smoke, the blaster and the helper will again go near to the blasting site for checking any misfire. Once assured that the blast is complete, there is no misfire, then the blaster will give signal to another blasting in charge who watch on that signaling zone. He will give one free signal, and the guard who were on the vulnerable points, they will release the area. And if in case any misfire has been occurred, then we have to carry out deal with the misfire. Then we have to again do the blasting, or we have to give some red zone to that area that misfire has happened. And finally, when completely assured that the blast is complete, we have to give the final clearance signal. Now check this video how the blaster and the blasting helper are going to fire the blast. So after connecting all the connections, now the final wire is bringing down to the shelter area. We are going to fire this blast by using ED. So now we will connect that electric wire to the exploder, and the blaster will check the connectivity and check the battery level of that exploder and connect the wire. And after proper connection, the blaster and helper are the only persons who will. This is the shelter, and the blaster and the helper, they will be inside the shelter, and nobody will be there within the risky zone of 500 meter. And after that, the blaster will fire the blast and see how the smokes are coming out from the blasting area. So immediately after the blasting, it is not allowed for the blaster or the helper to go near to the blasting area. They have to wait for 5 to 10 minutes for clearing all the smokes, and if there is any kind of misfire happened, so they have to wait and they have to check. They will check again after 5 minutes. So you can see the smoke is clearing, and after that the blaster and the helper is going near to the face for checking the blasting site. After checking and after assuring that all the holes are blasted properly, the blaster will give the clearance signal, and all the checking gates will be open for the people.
So post blast, the responsibilities lies with the blaster is to allow the sufficient time for the dispersion of the fume. Blaster has to personally verify that each and every charges placed in the benches is fired. There should not be any chances of misfire. It may happen that the hole may be lost, but the complete explosive may not be blasted. Some are dispersed into the space because the proper delay sequences are not there, but blaster has to personally check whether something happened, such cases are happened there or not. Once the blaster is ensured that there is no remaining charges. What each and every cartridges or each and every grams of explosive placed in the hole are already blasted, then only he signs for the clearance signal and clearance signal will be given. After the clearance given by the blaster, others are allowed to enter into the danger zone, inside the danger zone. Otherwise, it is not possible, and blaster is the person who is accounting the complete consumable which is carried out in that particular blasting. So, he has to give this much of explosive, this much of accessories are used there, and these are the remaining part which is already returned to the magazine. But blasting engineer or blast in charges are also some responsibilities. They have to assess the result, whether the current design which is practiced there perform properly or not. This is not the job of the blaster, this is the job of the engineer to ensure the performance of the blasting, ensure the blast costing. They have to check the safety in the complete process. Each and every time the operation is carried out, the SOP made, each and every point of the SOP and the code of the practice, those are properly followed or not. They have to ensure that in each and every blast round, and it is the responsibility of the blasting in charges that the insurance of the safety for that particular operation. It is not the responsibility of others. So, it is every time engineer is finding any violation of the same, he has to try to implement or convince that particular person, particular the operations, so that the violations will not be repeated. So, that is the requirement. So, this is more or less about the blasting operations, but sometimes it may occur that some holes is misfired. Something happened, the charge of that hole is not blasted. It is having of two chances. One is that the hole is intact, another is that hole is not intact. If the hole is intact, then the dealing is little bit easier. If not intact, then it is very difficult, but for both the cases, the what are the standard operating procedure that has to be carried out are already marked by the apex bodies. How to do that one, say for intact holes, a closed holes will be made and that has to be blasted, so that the sympathetic detonation will allow the explosion of the initiation of the charges in the misfired hole. So, that is the requirement, but that observations of misfired hole, the first job of the blaster to report to his engineer, and engineer will make it is sure that exclude other blasting groups, all others employees should be out of the danger zone, should not be inside the danger zone. No other work will be allowed except what is required for dealing with the misfire. The reattempt, first is requirement the reattempt of the firing the hole again. If it is not possible, then that close proximity hole has to be made, and that one. Sometimes it may be required that the remove the explosive using the washing of that one, if it is not required. In other non-electric misfires case, waiting time of 1 hour has to be kept, and all these operations has to be carried out. During this time only the blaster and blasting groups are allowed to be there, no other persons are allowed within the danger zone. So, any time a misfire basically leading to a huge economic repercussion in the mining operation. So, one must be very careful while the blasting is being carried out. There should not be any misfire. That attempt to do that one is has to be carried out wholeheartedly. And finally, the comprehensive report has to be made by the blaster for the consumables, the explosive utilizations, for the blasting engineer for the performance of the blasting and those things, and that has to be approved by the shift in charge and the mines manager, and its periodical evaluation is very essential. So, this is more or less about the standard operating procedures and ensuring the safety in the blasting process. The safety of the drilling process is more or less similar to the other machines operations, but that is not dealt in these two lectures. So, this is more or less about the drilling and blasting technology. Thank you.